Hello, and welcome to this edition of Soundbites for Immigration Success. We have with us a newer immigration consultant. Her name is Sarah, and I'm going to get Sarah to introduce herself by her full name. My name is Monica O'Brien. I'm an immigration consultant and also the education manager at CAPIC. And we're bringing this series to you so that you can meet your colleagues, listen to their challenges and how they've tackled them, and listen to their final pieces of advice that they might have for you as you begin your own immigration journey. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Monica. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is fantastic.
Well, please introduce yourself. And when you're doing that, tell us what made you decide to become an immigration consultant in the first place.
For sure. So my name is Sarah Heidt. I'm an RCIC based in York Region, Ontario, and I own and operate Sarah Lauren Immigration Service. So I just want to start off with a brief land acknowledgement. And this is just something I feel is really important as someone who lives and works in Canada, but especially for those of us who are in the field of immigration. So I want to briefly acknowledge that the Anishinaabe lands on which I live and work are the traditional and treaty territories of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to myself, I recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the land and the waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of this land, and we must join them in these responsibilities. I want to further acknowledge that York Region, Ontario is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty 13 as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. I believe a shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us here to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Thank you. So, like I said, my name is Sarah. I was born and raised in Regina, Saskatchewan, but I'm currently based here in Ontario. And working in this field was never really something I considered or even knew was available until later on. However, looking back, there's so many moments in my life that now sort of foreshadowed to me working in this area. For me, that really helps solidify that this was the right career path for myself. I always had interest in law and politics, but as someone who was born and raised in Canada, I didn't really know much about Canada's immigration practice or policies. Actually, I didn't know really anything at all. I thought it was just a super smooth and easy process, and that Canada was just always welcoming and open to bringing in as many immigrants as they could, as easy as possible. And being from Regina, we didn't really see many immigrants until just these later years. So it wasn't really until I met my husband and I started to research and hearing the stories of people who had recently immigrated here that I learned that this is something that I could do and I could help with.
And Sarah, where's your husband from?
My husband's from Iran.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he was working in Saskatchewan when we met. So it was just by chance. Really.
So yes, so continue. So I'm assuming as you helped him through the process, it sort of triggered that interest.
Yeah, well, sort of, he had a really, he was lucky in the way that he got to come to Canada. Like his experience is not the same as everyone who comes here. Like he had a lot of help from the university and such, but he really opened my eyes to a lot of the pain and suffering that many other families and individuals go through in the process of getting here. And then through that research, I started to learn about some of the like unethical actors and quote unquote ghost consultants who just really prey on and take advantage of many people who are often vulnerable, right? And so really from there, I realized that I could do my part as a Canadian by educating myself, and then later providing ethical and informed services from a really client-centered approach. And that's really what lit my fire and gave me the motivation. Yeah, I believe in like my ability to do this job well, and that in doing it would give me an opportunity to just be a really good ambassador of my country and to do my best to ensure that each person who I work with feels really like welcomed, seen, heard, valued, and supported, because I feel like that's really what matters most. Sure, we can provide a good service, but just making sure that these people feel like their needs are getting met. And yeah.
I love it, and I tell you, you inspire me. And if any immigration consultant can have, 1/4 of that in their system, I think it's amazing. And I want to thank you for acknowledging the lands that we're in. And it's mindful for me to remember that we're we're not the first peoples on these lands, and that that we're sharing the lands, and that we have to acknowledge that and know our history as we
Yeah,
move
exactly.
forward.
That's one of the things I feel like in talking about that, I can really open so many of like our clients' eyes to Canada's history, and just it's just so important to know and to understand. I feel like so many people get caught up in how they're going to get to Canada, that they really like they don't have enough time to learn about our history and how Canada really got to this place, right?
Yeah, and I would say even, Sarah, to go further from that, even a lot of new immigration consultants themselves are so worried about understanding the complexity of different programs and the pathways, that we too ourselves sort of forget about those other aspects of our history and where we're from, and
Mhm.
those other factors in terms of making sure that our clients are, and I've written them down,
Yeah,
welcome, seen, valued, and heard. We so focus so much on the strategy part, which is really important because we're giving a service, but we have to be mindful of all those other things. So thank you for sharing a little bit of who you are, and why you've become an immigration consultant.
yeah, thanks so much. It's such a
And
rewarding job and such a great opportunity for us to help us
yes,
grow as individuals.
it is. It is very validating, and to know that you've helped somebody or a family make their dreams come true. It feels really good. It certainly does. Now, you had said to me before we went on air that you've been an immigration consultant for 18 months. So I'm sure within the scope of that, there have been some challenges. I want to ask you, what do you feel has been your greatest challenge, or maybe a couple of challenges, and how you're trying to solve those?
I think one of the hardest for sure things is just not being able to help everyone, and realizing that there's only so much that we can do as consultants. There's only so much that we can give in order to keep running a viable business, right? And unfortunately, sometimes I haven't had to turn anybody away, but just knowing the fact that there's only so much that we can do as consultants, it's a little upsetting, right? So that's the biggest thing for me. And then I'm always constantly trying to work on, I can only do my best and I can only do so much, right?
Right. And that's a really important aspect to understand, that when you think of there's only so much you can do, that comes in a couple of different ways. It comes in terms of your own knowledge. You might be really good on two or three areas of immigration, but not so great in another area, and you really want to be able to help that client, and
Yeah.
they have a certain need, but you aren't able to provide that service. So
Mhm.
of course, having a great referral network, and resources is able to help you solve that problem. But the
Mhm.
other piece to that, and you probably see this in the scope of your practice, is sometimes we come across clients who, it's not only immigration challenges they have, but they have other challenges, whether it be maybe it's a spousal relationship that's broken down, or they're suffering financially, or there's mental health issues. And
Mhm.
our job is to counsel immigration wise, because we're not social workers, we're not mental health experts. And that's challenging too. So again, we have to have that roster of resources around us. So how do you sort of handle those challenges when you have a client that might come to you that has something beyond immigration issues? How do you handle that? Do you refer them somewhere? Do you give them resources? Do you direct them? Or do you sometimes just sit and listen, and then give some words and then sort of pass them on?
Yeah, I think the first step is just listening because, like I said, it's a big deal for someone to come to you and feel comfortable enough to open up to you, right? That's always the first step. And then I find a lot of the time clients aren't aware of all the resources that are available. Um, Unfortunately, like we have a long way to go, right? As as a society, we have a long way to go, but there are resources that are in place. So I have like a folder um for services. My mom's a social worker. She provides me with services. I'm like in touch with the welcome center here and things like that. So just sort of like compiling these resources that you can share. And you may think you're not helping a lot by providing that, but it's a good first step for people, I
It-
think.
yeah, it certainly is. And do you find sort of your own experience in having helped your husband and hearing his journey, you're able to relate a little bit more with your clients and understand their anxiety about long processing times or not getting an answer to something.
Well, yeah, I definitely know my own anxiety for dealing with those things. My husband seems to have a much more relaxed approach. Not everyone's that lucky, but so yeah, it can be difficult. Like I totally understand. And I always try to prepare my clients for any roadblocks that come ahead. And I think that in like you don't want to seem so negative all the time, but it's good to give people a realistic idea of what they're looking at. Because a lot of people just think like Canada is the land of milk and honey, and this process is going to be super easy because they maybe have talked to, I don't know, consultants in their hometown or people who just got really lucky. But we know that that's not the case for everyone, right? So I do just try to prepare them as much as possible. And I don't really give timelines because it's not in our hands, right? So that's sort of what I do. And also just checking in on clients, letting them know, like, I don't want clients to feel like they have to come to me. I make it so I'm going to be checking with them at specific intervals so they know no changes have been made, or they know that I'm going to communicate to them as soon as I hear something, right? So they don't feel completely in the dark, even though
Yeah,
sometimes that's
yeah,
the way I feel.
yeah. I think that's really a great way to manage your clients is being proactive rather than reactive.
Mhm.
So it seems like with your clients, you give really, as you noted, client-based service, and you provide a listening ear, a realistic view of what to expect. So I want to ask a follow-up question. It sounds
Sure.
like you really work to be empathetic and understand, but how do you keep that objectivity? That how do you, at the end of your workday, do you not sort of take that client situation and sort of keep thinking about it and wonder and worry about their vulnerability? How do you sort of maintain that work-life
Mhm.
balance?
Well, that kind of brings me into my second challenge I was going to bring up with you, and that's just managing my time and my energy in the most effective way possible. Creating schedules and systems that really help me achieve that. Um, and I think like, it's hard for a lot of people to come home from the end of the day and just set work aside. It's even harder if you're working from home or you're like close to the office or spending way too much time. Because in the beginning, as a new consultant, you're likely putting in a lot more than 40 hours a week, right? Like as new consultants, we just have to wear so many hats. That's just the reality of it. And it's not easy, but I don't think it's going to be forever either. So, what I've been just doing is just trying to find the right schedule or system that works best for me and for my clients. And I feel that that takes a lot of like trial and error because what works for one person might not work for some. I know some RCICs that they work mostly with people overseas and they do majority of their work in the evenings. And there's so many different like CRM, like client management systems. So I've really just been trying to try a lot of different things. And while that's not really the most time effective, I think it definitely has paid off and will keep paying off in the long run, because I plan on continuing to just tweak things and make changes and improve things and just optimize the way I do things as I go. Because things are always changing, like in different seasons of our life, even, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I like that you go. So you have to be adaptable and you have to be willing. It's a little bit of trial and error. And as you say, you know, in your own personal life, things change from, you know, having more children to maybe aging parents that you have to look after, or maybe you are tied to a spouse who has to move. So there's a whole bunch of different factors. But
Yeah.
you alluded to something earlier that would sort of help in managing time and that work-life balance, and that was being proactive. So if you're setting up your schedules and
Mhm.
you're setting up your check-ins in advance, so that you know that on Thursday afternoons I check in with my clients, and your clients will know to expect that. That will take away those panicked phone calls or you know instant messaging, so that you're
Exactly.
not always on call.
And even just to like, I have it in my schedule when I'm going to actually be planning. Like, when am I planning? When am I going to be looking over my schedule and deciding like what everything is going to be done, right? Because it does change, and it's just important to make sure that we have enough time allotted. And in the beginning, like as a new consultant, I've gotten a lot of my clients through Saturday and Sunday consultation appointments. Like, that's just what works for a lot of people. So in this season, that's what I'm doing. That works for me, but that may not be forever, right? So
Right. So that brings me to sort of the last question that I have. So what advice might you have for somebody just starting out, or what advice might you have to yourself 18 months ago? What did you wish you had known in advance, or wish that maybe you had done prior to starting out, or in those first few weeks or months?
yeah, that's a really good question. And if someone who's listening to this just finished writing their EPE, or they just finished their their certificate program, they may roll their eyes at me. But what I'm going to say is, don't be afraid to invest in yourself, especially when it comes to your education. It shouldn't stop once you graduate or once you become an RCIC. I think it needs to continue, because at the end of the day, if we're not willing to invest in ourselves, why should our clients be willing to invest in us? Because what we're doing is we're providing our services, right? And so I think in the beginning, we all make mistakes. I definitely made a lot of mistakes. Or I wonder if there are things that I should have done differently or I could have done differently. But thankfully, we learn a lot in the process. But that being said, I think we can save a lot of time and energy by learning from others who have been in our position or similar positions before. Um, and for some, that can just be like, you can do this by going on LinkedIn and reading other business professionals or immigration professionals posts. Like, there's so much information out there. CAPIC seminars, networking events. Like, I think that's the place to put your money, rather than like purchasing a whole bunch of stationery or renovating your office space, upgrading to the newest computer, because I think that this is the investment. This is the type of investment that really will take you further in your career. And
Well,
yeah,
yeah, no, I love that. Invest in yourself. I mean, it's about making yourself more skilled, better able to serve your clients and provide those services that you want to do, whether it's, continuing to engage and learn in immigration learning, or whether it's new skills to run your business,
yeah,
or whatever it may be. It could be many forms. And thank you for talking about the value of CAPIC. I mean,
for
we're
sure.
doing these to help others and to grow from each other. So hopefully, from each and every single podcast that we're doing, there's at
Mhm.
least one takeaway, and you've given us so many, and I appreciate you taking the time with us. I know we could talk for hours because the topic is so broad. But Sarah, I want to thank you for taking the time with us. I want to wish you the best of luck in your career. I
Thank
have
you.
every confidence in your growth, and I think if I was new immigrant coming to Canada, I'd love to have you as my immigration consultant because I love your passion, I love your empathy, and just the fact that you care so much. So thank you, Sarah.
So kind. Thank you, Monica. That really means a lot to me. And it's been such a pleasure to speak with you. I can't wait to hear what others have to say.
Okay, and thank you to our audience for listening today, and we'll see you at the next podcast. Thanks again, Sarah.
Thanks.